I guess it was in the 9th grade, I turned to drugs.
Drugs?
I
in
did.
the 9th grade?
Yes.
How old is somebody in the 9th grade these days?
I was 14 and I turned 15 in 9th grade.
And what were you doing?
Well, I mean, I started, with cigarettes, and then I tried smoking pot, and then I ate some mushrooms.
Cigarettes are bad for you.
Yes.
Just for the record.
They are. And then mushrooms, and then LSD, and then I got really caught up in this whole scene, this whole Grateful Dead scene, just, going to the parking lot with all my preppy, wannabe hippie friends, and, and doing drugs, and somehow, I guess it was probably that summer between 9th and 10th grade, I got wrapped up in selling LSD.
Selling acid?
Yes.
Were you a deadhead at the time? Or just a pretend a poser deadhead?
I think it started as a poser, but then I just took off for 9 weeks, and I traveled around the country and hitched a ride most of the way with these 5 guys, I didn't even know them, and their German Shepherd in a Bronco, and I went to all the shows, and I got a miracle ticket at every show, and I was doing hair wraps, and I wore the same sundress the entire time, and the bottom, it was yellow. It was this beautiful sundress, but it was too long for me because I'm short, and the bottom of it was pitch black from hitting the parking lots and the dirt and the mud. And
what were your...
I got stuck in Auburn Hills, Michigan, with no ride home, no ride to the next show, and there were these people that were like barbecuing or grilling out in the parking lot. It was the only car left in the parking lot, and I walked over them, and they happened to be from Indianapolis, and they were going home. So I got a ride. That's kind of when I called it quits.
I want to go back a few steps. What were your early LSD experiences like? Were they pleasurable? Were they enlightening? Were they helpful? Were they useful for you? Upon reflection.
Right. I liked it. My experience was just seeing the world in a completely different way. And
speak to that a little.
One of my most favorite trips, we'll call it, was with a dear friend of mine, and we had this very strange connection that when we would do LSD together, we could actually just have these conversations without speaking at all. It was probably one of the most profound things I think I've ever witnessed, and I don't really feel that the LSD was as much of a hallucinogenic as people think it is. You don't see these things that don't exist. You don't see big dancing elephants and like Disney's Fantasia or something. It's not like that. It's. I remember we snuck into a golf course around midnight, and it was spring, so there was a lot of dew on the. It was still really cold at night, and there was a lot of dew along the greens, and we were just gliding along as though we were ice skating on these greens, and we ended up sitting on the side of this lake and dangling our feet into the water. And I remember just looking up at the stars and reciting all of the constellations and just enjoying the moment. And there were these trees behind us, and they were kind of hanging over right here, and they were just starting to bud for the spring. And I had this crazy epiphany about how the branches of those trees were like a villi in your lungs, and how the trees are the lungs of the earth. And if that were the case, and the earth was just one living cell inside of some other greater being, I had that epiphany of how very, very small I really am. And then I started thinking about what we create as humans on this earth. Everything that we make with our hands is dead matter, everything that we make. And we spread concrete, and we build houses, and we make furniture and all of these things, but we are like a cancer on this living cell, spreading dead matter on this cell. And it just was this kind of, mind you, I'm 14 years old and I'm just sitting on a golf course in Indiana, but I have this grandiose idea of, you know, life and existence and the universe. And I think that probably was the beginning of just my exploratory ways, as far as just saying, oh my gosh, like there's so much more out there. And I took every astronomy class I could, and I've since, you know, I love NASA, and I love anything that has to do with, you know, kind of reaching beyond and finding out what's out there. But I just, that was one of my, like, I guess, life moments.
I just want to underscore that, and in underscoring it, I'm considering it and reflecting upon it, because I've never heard it expressed quite that way. I think that you said that everything that we create is dead matter, like building a chair or a shelf or objects,
right.
A computer, that we don't create life. And that was an epiphanous acid moment for you. And I mean, I guess one could say that farmers plant seeds
right.
in the ground and create food.
Right.
I guess one could say that women give birth to children. I'm going to run out of examples in about 5 seconds. But you are right. For the most part, what we create, I think, are dead things. Well, dead is a harsh word.
It is.
They're solid things, or things that are devoid of life.
Right.
I'm looking around this room, and outside of the floral display behind you, there is nothing in this room that exudes life. It's all
alive,
objects, right. Yeah. That's an important epiphanous LSD realization.
Yes.
Can you think of another?
I mean, I have a funny one, but I wouldn't call it an epiphany, unless I don't know, unless there's some message in that I have yet to find. But
Share it.
there was another one of my favorite moments was my girlfriend lived on a lake, and we had gone out swimming on LSD. I don't know why, in pitch dark of night, and decided that was probably very dangerous, and came back inside. And so I'm in my bikini, and I'm on the couch, and it's summer, and so the basement in her home was freezing because everyone keeps their air conditioning on, just like 60 degrees in the summer. So I have this cream-colored blanket over me, and some boys came over, and I asked one of them if they could throw me a pillow. And he threw me this yellow square pillow, and it landed right on top of me. And from that moment on, the rest of my 6, 7, 8 hour trip, I thought that I was a pile of mashed potatoes.
He tossed butter on you.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did. And I literally sat there, and I would only answer and only talk as if I were a pile of mashed potatoes. And I drew up a family tree. And the tater tots were my little cousins, and the mashed potatoes were my grandfather's, and the twice baked potatoes were the reformed stoners that were born again. And there was, sweet potato Sue, which was my aunt.
Oh, you were on a good trip.
I was in a whole other place.
Yeah, clearly. You were 14, and beyond these epiphanous moments, and moments that we're taking kind of lightly,
right.
Of course, you started selling acid. Did you, as well as other drugs, or just LSD?
Mm-hmm.
That was your source of income?
Yeah, well, not my only. I've been working since I was 11 years old. I realized very young that if I made my own money, I could buy the things that my parents told me I couldn't have. So, no, you can't have that skateboard. Okay, well, I'm going to go get a paper route and I'm going to buy that skateboard. No, you cannot have that freestyle bike. Well, then I'm going to get a second paper route and I am going to help my brother with his paper route and I am going to make money.
But we're not talking about paper routes at the moment.
No, I know. I'm just saying I've always kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit.
Clearly. Yeah.
So
a way of framing the experience we were just discussing.
Well, and that's exactly what happened with drugs. I saw a very easy way to make a lot of money if I was very smart about what I did. And oh my gosh, I'm sorry, Dad, but my dad's company had front row tickets to every concert at this particular amphitheater, and so I was always given those. And a hippie will sell his soul for those. But I just wanted a couple of books of acid, and so I would trade. But when the dead was in town, a hit of acid was $2 or $3, maybe $4. But if you sat on that for a while and you waited till the state ran dry, and the states next door ran dry, and the dead is long gone, then you could sell them for $15, $20 a hit. And so that's awesome inflation if you're if you're self-employed. That's what I did. I stocked a little freezer in my bedroom full of chicken pot pies, and I cut them open and I put my acid in there and I waited. And then I sold like crazy and I used like crazy, and made a lot of money. And I didn't do. I bought a moped and like a leather coat and like a bikini. Like I didn't do, I don't know, I didn't, money has never really been a big thing for me. It just, it was exciting. I didn't really care about the money, actually. I didn't have anything to spend it on as a 14-year-old child, 15-year-old child.
And those were the only so-called drugs that you sold?
Yeah.
Fast forward our story.
Okay. My 16th birthday, we'll start there. I got pulled over doing a drug deal. And just as the cops shined their light, the person I was doing the deal with pulled a knife up to my throat. And, it's kind of a double-edged sword, so to speak, no pun intended, but here's the police, here's death. Neither one of them looked good to me at the time. And I was on LSD at the time. A miraculous chain of events happened. I was with 5 other people in the car. The 2 in the front were adults. My friend and I in the back. It was my 16th birthday. It was 1 a.m. It was just past 12 on my birthday. And they didn't find everything. So we were all let go. And I chose that next day to I'm on the wrong path. And I had an officer friend who, I only knew him because I had been in trouble. And he knew my father, who had been kind of keeping an eye on me. And I made a promise to him that I was going to turn my life around. I made a promise that, he came down in my room. I lived in the basement, and he came down in my room and saw all of my artwork and my poetry and straight A's. And what are you doing? And I said, I'm just, just living life. And he asked me what my goals were. And since I was a little girl, I said, as soon as I graduate high school, I'm going to move to California. And he told me that day, you're never going to move there if you keep this up. So I was less than a year from moving, and here I was faced with this idea that he was telling me there's only 2 ways this is going to end, and that's going to end in death or jail. And you have a choice to make right now. And so he kind of grabbed me and pulled me back to that fork in the road and pushed me down the right path. And to this day, when I go back, I still take him out to dinner and I show him everything I've done with my life, and I thank him every day for that.